All right, everyone. As my guest just pointed out before we went live, I should be calling it differently. This is season 1, episode 14. I like it. So, as you can see, we have another Army guy in the house. Glad to keep having the Army folks in here. Just keep, it's always better than the Air Force, right? That's what I always say. My guest tonight is another Ohio Army National Guardsman, Warrant Officer 1, Joseph Gibson. Goes by Joe.
Yep.
All right. Welcome, Joe.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks. So the first thing we got to start off with is being a Warrant Officer. As a Warrant Officer 1, is it still protocol to call you Chief?
So actually, someone told me that they changed that in the regulation. You can call Warrant Officer 1 Chief.
All right.
What I always say is it's coming anyway. I get Chief Warrant Officer 2 this coming March. So you're just predicting for the future. And
right.
I get called Chief all the time.
Right. It was one of the fun things. I was, an ordnance officer, so we had a lot of warrant officers with us, and that was always a joke. We'd always, warrant officers, ones would want to be called Chief, and we were like, hey, you're not a Chief yet. You're just a Warrant Officer 1. And they'd be like, well, I was an E7, but now, yeah, you're not anymore. Now you're Warrant Officer 1.
That's right.
So we'll get into that actually. Like many warrant officers, most warrant officers, started as an enlisted guy, so we'll get into that. So we've got a couple things that are a little bit different tonight. Joe picked first, so we're gonna have a little something after our first quote. We're gonna kind of change it up a little bit. We got a little something. I gave him a choice before, beginning, middle, or end. He chose beginning, so he put a lot of pressure on me really fast. So the first quote we have up, finding an HR one is tough. Team resources. So I dug through. I found one I thought was good. So we'll start off with the first quote of the episode is all the best talent management tools, templates, assessment models, and career plans in the world are only as effective as the people executing them. And Church and Wachowski. So as we'll talk later on, HR, you're the one executing the Army's big plan on HR in the state of Ohio. So thank you for that. And, I feel like we got to do all kinds of public service. So he chose first. So do you want to do the whiskey first or the other thing first?
I'll do the other thing first.
Other thing first. Okay. So other thing is you might notice we've sold out to a sponsor for the night, a good friend of mine. We're promoting his business and starting a partnership with TacPack. It's a local Columbus company here in Columbus, Ohio. They specialize in subscription boxes of tactical gear that's delivered to your, like you've seen before, it's a monthly package that's delivered straight to your door. These boxes are geared toward your AR-15, your everyday carry, tactical, and survival gear enthusiasts. Each box is packed with like professional grade stuff to increase, as they say, increase your ability to remain self-efficient. And it's like that's a good time in 2022 to be self-efficient, especially in California with the power grid and electric cars coming soon. So they offer 2 different tiers. They have their TacPack standard. I did post a little bit about them earlier yesterday and today as well. But they have their TacPack standard, which is $49.95 a month. That comes with gear that's anywhere from $90 to $120. And then they have their TacPack Plus is really where the bang for the bargain is. It's $129.95 a month, and you usually get a value of about $250 a month. So really good boxes. And one of the exciting things is we're actually going to unveil one box to show you what it is. That's how you put the pressure on me. We're going to get the box out and unveil it. So we have a box put together. This is what you will receive. I have not been able to look at it, so hopefully it's nothing's going to jump out of it. So. Got to need the knife here. Look, I wasn't prepared. So this would be very reminiscent of if you were to get a TacPack Plus box from them. So we'll go ahead and open that. I kind of was wishing you would do this little like in the middle or the end or something, but you put the pressure on me. So yeah, I'll let you pick. So this one, we'll just pull some stuff out. This package, where you could get it to your home, you get a set of Wiley X's. Looks like a 3-in-1 multi-tool carry kit. So we'll hold all this up as much as I can. A pair of mechanics gloves. I'll save the best for last. A Seekins muzzle device. Bob's going to kill me because I have no idea what that is, and you can make fun of me because I don't know what it is. That's fine. It's been I feel like we got to open everything now. It's like
It's Christmas in the fall.
And again, looks like a bottom plate
Is
for a
there anything
magazine.
pumpkin spice in that box?
Magazine extension. And then the best part, I think Bob and I talked about, but your house is never complete if you don't have a hatchet. I brought one of these home one time, and my kids were asking me what I was going to do with the hatchet, and I told them it's none of your business. You never know what you're going to do with the hatchet until you need a hatchet. So this is an example of one of the boxes, and they do throw in some really cool stickers that come in there that look great on your Yeti, or it kind of matches. Maybe this is why Bob wanted me to open it, because he knew I'd have this shirt on. So this is an example of what you'd get on a monthly basis. I want to thank, TAC Pack for doing that, to putting this. And the good news is about this, I told you to tune in to figure out. So obviously I'm not going to keep this box, so we will figure out a way to auction this box off to someone in the group. The good news is the folks at TAC Pack are super generous. So we actually have, holy cow, a second box. I haven't opened that. So this one I'll be sending out as well. So there'll be another opportunity to win this box. And as we're talking about boxes, one of the cool things that our partnership with TAC Pack is now is that all the members of Pours with Patriots, if you go to their website and order your first box, you're going to get 25% off your first box. Bob and TAC Pack will then donate $5 to a charity. We haven't decided which charity that is, but so whatever your purchase is, everybody that signs up, $5 will come back to Pours with Patriots, and that'll go to a charity in the future. So to get a hold of them, you've seen them on. I dropped in their website today, which is www.tacpack.com. You can find them on Facebook at TAC Pack, also on Instagram at PackTac. And then if you have any questions about the subscription, you can always reach out to them via email at info@tacpack.com. And then the final part of that, I feel like we've totally a lot of promotions going on.
Heck yeah.
Are you awake over there still?
I'm good.
So I'm exhausted. I need a drink.
I'll drink with you, since I made you go first.
I know I feel like this would have been better towards the end, though, but no, it's good to get it over with. So then the other part about it is, like I said, they're been very generous. So what we have here, which is pretty awesome, is they're absolutely they gave us 3 CRKT Duhok Karambit blade knives. So we're going to be giving these away as well too. So we'll do that. I don't know how I'm going to give away the packages yet, but for the knives here, the 3 knives, all you have to do is in this chat and in tonight's episode 14, all you have to do is make a comment or comment hashtag TAC Pack, and I'll enter you into a randomizer. We're going to keep that open for 24 hours, and then the top 3 people will win one of these knives that we'll ship to you if you're out of the Columbus area. So we got all the corporate stuff down now.
Yes.
I feel like I feel a lot of pressure on that.
Commercial
right,
rate.
so, but I just want to thank the folks at TAC Pack. I want to thank Bob Breyer for his hospitality. And again, like I said, the big thing is we've got a bunch of free stuff to give away, which is important. The other part to remember is all you have to do is go to TAC Pack, enter the code PWP. You will get 25% off your first box. And then that $5 from TAC Pack will be donated to a charity that supports suicide awareness and veterans. So now I guess we're ready to talk to you.
Let's do it.
All right, cool. So now we got to go to the second part because you put it first. So we're going to go right into the first featured whiskey. I feel like it's like 10 minutes we haven't talked to you yet. It's great. So the first featured whiskey actually that Joe brought is one of my all-time least favorite products, Woodford Reserve. It's a big joke with me. It's funny he brought that in there, and I don't have any other Woodford in all the basement, which is, I don't dislike it, but it's not one of my favorite things. I would drink it anytime, but I just don't choose to spend my money on it. But we haven't talked about Woodford Reserve before, but it's actually located in Versailles, Kentucky. It was formerly known as the Old Oscar Pepper Distillery, and later the Lombret and Graham Distillery. The distillery actually started way back in 1812. It's actually considered a national landmark for its well-preserved distillery architecture. The Pepper family sold the property and the distillery to Lombret Graham in 1878. They owned that until they sold it to Brown-Forman in 1941. Brown-Forman kept the property and the distillery till around the late 1960s. At that time, they sold it to a local farmer. And then they decided to buy it back 30-some years ago in 1993. They refurbished it, and it's very similar to what you see today if you've ever visited Woodford Reserve. And they actually brought the Woodford Reserve brand that we know today to the market in 1996. Woodford Reserve Double Oak was first released in 2012. It's double oak, so I don't think we talked about a double oak product before, but it's actually, that means it's just barreled again. So it's actually Woodford Reserve Distillers Select that's aged for about another year in another virgin barrel. The Woodford Reserve is non-age stated. They don't ever tell you how the age is, but they do. The second, aging is about a year. I'd probably say, if I was guessing, maybe like 5 or 6 years old total. It's 90.4 proof. The mash bill is 72% corn, 18% rye, and 10% malted barley. So thank you for bringing that. You said this is one of your favorites.
It is.
It's always good. And it's not awful. I just made a joke about that before. It's just not one of my.
It's all good.
It is good, actually. I can't lie about that. Well, welcome again. We've done a lot of like promo stuff until 11 minutes. So we'll get into the good stuff now. So we have another, as you might suspect, we have another Columbus guy. Joe grew up in Brookfield.
Yes.
Which is close to Youngstown.
Yep, about 20 minutes northeast.
So hardcore Youngstown. Was it hardcore back when you were going to high school?
So, yes, I went to Youngstown only for really symphony orchestra concerts and things like that. But it was, and actually it still is.
Yeah, it's got, if you're not from Ohio, like Youngstown is like, everyone's always like gang signs Youngstown. It's all that. That and Marion, I guess, are everyone's all proud of being for those two places. I have no idea. If I had to choose, if you had to choose to be where you're from, Marion or Youngstown, I'd say
Youngstown.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I went to the Big Lots in Marion one time, and I won't say any more about that.
Yeah. No, you should. This is your opportunity.
They had what I needed, so I was happy, but.
Which is good. So the first question I have for you, so we'll talk about it, but anybody else in your family in the military? Are we a first person or?
So I have my Uncle Ron. He's retired Chief Petty Officer, E7 in the Navy.
Okay.
He retired years and years and years ago. He resides in San Diego, California. That was his last duty station. So San Diego is beautiful if you haven't been. So I try to get out there as much as possible to visit them. Always a great time. And then my cousin, he also retired, actually also Chief Petty Officer in the Navy. A few years ago.
Okay.
My grandfather was in the Army. He's unfortunately passed away, but we don't have too many military in the family. So
what was everybody's reaction when you decided to join?
Well, my mother was not happy in the slightest. She said, she tried to do everything she could to convince me not to join. And I joined really for the challenge. That's why I joined. I did take advantage of in Ohio, the incentives that they provide with you joining the Ohio Army National Guard, but I really joined for the challenge. I heard all these stories about basic training, and I really had every intention to just do my 6 years and get out. But here I am still making a career of it, loving every minute of it. And
15 years now?
15 years this October.
Awesome. 5 more
and
years.
It's flying by. Even more so since I became a warrant officer a little over a year ago, a year and a half here in a few months. And it goes faster.
Yeah.
It really does.
But that's crazy. So you, like we said, grew up near Youngstown, played a lot of sports, baseball, basketball, track, and cross country. And we talked yesterday in a pre-interview. You said you gave football a go, and it was peer pressure.
Yeah,
so we have something in common. We talked about, I got peer pressured into joining the band or try to join the band. Yeah. I was awful. It was awful.
What did you play?
I didn't play anything. I was supposed to play the trumpet. I was awful at it. It was just like the worst year of my entire life.
That sounds about right for me.
That's it. Football.
Yeah. What's that position in the back? Safety.
Yeah.
I try to get tackled as least as possible. So there you go.
You didn't like it at all. So who peer pressured you into play then? Friends?
Yeah, one of my friends at the time, and I don't even know. I was such a different person back then, not confident and just trying to fit in really. And so I also like trying new things. So there was that aspect of it as well. And yeah, I did 1 year in 7th grade. Never forget it. Never forget it. Never again.
Retired after 1 year. The same thing. Yeah. I was like, I used to actually when I play the trumpet, they used to have lessons. It makes you have to do lessons at lunchtime. So you'd be on the stage, and then the lunchroom was right in the gymnasium, or like the lunchroom was connected to the stage. I can't even remember what it was like, but you would sit there and you'd be trying to learn to play this instrument, and all your friends are like watching you. And my dad's actually in the audience tonight. He probably remembers I would accidentally forget to bring my trumpet to school, forget the mouthpiece.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah, no, it wasn't accidental. It was like the way. I can't play the trumpet today. I didn't bring the mouthpiece, and then it was like, okay, you're not doing this anymore. So I know the feeling of being pressured into something. So obviously music, you talked about earlier a few seconds ago, and earlier you talked about music has always been part of your life. So is that why you decided to enlist in the band?
That is, I had no idea that was a job in the Army.
Right.
They say the Army has a job for everything, but I had no idea. So at the time, that was my sophomore year of college at Youngstown State University. Go Penguins! Side note: they were only good for
their mascot.
They were only good for the first year, 2006, and then they just.
The Penguins,
Yeah, they're not.
Penguins in Ohio, that doesn't make much, but no.
But a lot of people that go to Youngstown State, we have a lot of pride.
Right.
So it's a great campus. It's even way better than I went before. But yeah, so I met a guy I was going to school with who played tuba, and he was in the National Guard of West Virginia at the time. And he said, yeah, there's an Army band. Just about every state has one. There's a couple of territories out there that don't. But almost every state and territory has one. And he got me in touch with a recruiter on campus who is a huge, now a great friend of mine and, lifelong friend, a huge mentor in my career. And so I got in touch with him, set up an audition with the 122nd Army Band at Rickenbacker here in Columbus, Ohio, and auditioned. That's a unique thing about the Army Band. You have to audition to actually enlist as that.
Yeah, you're stealing all my questions here.
Oh.
I mean, we kind of knew that, too.
Let me see what else I can
Why are you squinting like that? I don't have to look at that. I mean, look, my eyes are pretty good. Dang,
so I didn't know that, and I thought about it and went and auditioned, and again, my mother was very not happy I joined, but obviously no regrets, and it's been a whirlwind of a career.
Right. We'll talk about more. But so is music still an important part of your life, or is it?
It is.
Taking a little bit of a backseat.
I like listening to music the most. So when I was in college, I would drive between. So Youngstown is, for those that don't know, it's halfway between Chicago and New York City. Also not too far from Philadelphia. So I would have, and also halfway between Cleveland, Ohio, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I would go between Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Chicago. Nashville sometimes. Nashville Symphony is a great group. And I would just look up concert series, and from playing in the orchestra throughout my college years, learning the repertoire and going to those concerts of songs that I knew, and then just built on that. So I would, at every chance I possibly could, get in the car, sometimes alone, sometimes with a friend, jump in the car and go to one of those cities just to see a concert. And that was my absolute favorite part of music, was listening. I don't play as much anymore. Actually, the 122nd Army Band had an alumni concert July 4th weekend. And
they didn't invite you? No.
They did. They invited me, and actually I opted out not to play because I didn't want to bring the quality of the ensemble down.
They made you audition. They're like, hey, we'd like you to come back. Joe, you suck now. You sold your soul to the Warrant.
I did, yeah. So I do. I went. It was a great concert, but I don't play as much. I have played at community bands in the past, but the playing is kind of winded down. But every chance I get, I go to listen to music. It was my favorite part, even going through college.
Right. So we did jump. He did graduate in 2006, and then went to Youngstown, and then, like you said, he started joining the Ohio Army National Guard in 2007. One of the other things is just like we've had another band member. I told you earlier, the Marine Corps band beat you to it. I mean, you're not the first band person, not the first warrant officer, but if you ain't first, you're last. But we're still glad to have you on.
Absolutely.
We talked about. One of the interesting things that a lot of people don't know is the band, just even though they're in the band, they do have to do the same type of training, individual training. They went to basic training. So you went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
I did.
And then like our former guest before, went to the same school of music at in Little Creek, Virginia.
Yes.
Which is joint except for the Air Force, right?
No Air Force, no Coast Guard.
Oh, look, I forgot. I don't think I knew about the Coast. Is Coast Guard really count though? I mean, that's kind of they have a band.
They do have a band, actually.
Like one or two or whatever.
I know of the big one in D.C., the Coast Guard band. Every branch has a special band that's in the Washington, D.C. area. So, and I've seen them. They're a great, fantastic group.
I wonder if the Space Force has a band yet.
I don't think that one's. Yeah, that's a good one.
So I have a question for you. I did my research after we talked. How many Army bands are there? What's your guess?
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, man.
Oh, that's a real good one. So before I answer,
you got to believe the internet. My answer is coming off the internet, so it's not Wikipedia. I think it's accurate.
That's a good one because you have not only do almost every National Guard, state and territory.
Everyone has it, so I'll give you that one. They all have it. So
they do.
I'll give you
54.
50. It's not territories, but 51.
Counting DC.
51.
Yep. Okay. Woo. And then you got Army Reserve bands.
National Guard bands. There's 51 National Guard bands, which you were part of the one. And from Ohio, it's probably that they're not as good as the Ohio State Marching Band, probably, but just to throw out there for all you guys.
No, it's just different. They don't have Brutus, but I mean.
So what's your guess? What's your number? I gave you 51. What's the total number of Army bands?
110.
You're too high. 88.
Okay, yeah.
According to things. So 88. There's actually, it's comprised of, 4 different branches, 20 active duty regional bands, 13 reserve bands, Army reserve bands, 51 Army National Guard bands, and 4 premier bands. So 88. Cool. And that's actually from the Army homepage. So I didn't get on Wikipedia, but so that is a lot, though. I was actually surprised when I looked at that because we talked about it last night. I was like really surprised. So we talked about this a little bit last night, and I hope you elaborate on more. So what is the band in Ohio doing? Like, what is their primary mission? I know is it recruiting? Like, what kind of? I looked at the website today, and there's like a jazz band, a hip band, now there's all this kind of stuff. So what's really the mission of the band in Ohio?
Well, multifunctional. So National Guards are unique. So National Guards we have a stateside mission as well as a federal mission, which is the federal mission is when we're called up to active duty to support missions. For other units, deployments, things like that. So Ohio's band does a lot. So we go all around the state. We also go outside the state. I've traveled outside the state a lot of times. So the Army band's mission is straight from FM 1-0, which is HR support. It's our HR doctrine. And actually, there's a whole segment in there on Army band operations. And the first line of it is to instill in soldiers the fight to win. So the Army band in Ohio, we support tons of ceremonial events. Right. We get a lot of community service-related requests. So those have to go through a process to get approved to make sure legally and ethically we're allowed to support those. So we support those. We travel all over the place. Training with the Army band's fun. It's called Tour Ohio. So your annual training, your 2 weeks in the summer, as they call it in the National Guard, you go train. You might do training for mobilization. You might get to have the opportunity to go out to do like a mobilization exercise. But we go around the whole state and play concerts.
There you go.
It's kind of fun. So within the Army band, there's the big group, the full group, and then we can do we call it drill band. It's kind of like marching band, but that's when we march parades and things like that. And then within that, you have a brass quintet. Some have woodwind quartets or quintets. One time we tried to do a trombone quintet. It just depends on what the capabilities of your unit are. Right. And that's great too, because there's several times where you will break up within groups and then support several events. Memorial Day is one of their biggest weekends that they support. Same with July 4th. So all the holidays we get to support. So normally when people are off enjoying the long holidays, Veterans Day is another one, we're all supporting events. So sometimes to support more than one event, we'll have the brass quintet go here, and then we'll have a ceremonial band go here. So it's very versatile, very well equipped to support many missions at one time and to fulfill the state's needs as much as possible.
Yeah, because if you've ever been to like a change of command ceremony or any kind of military ceremony and the band wasn't there, it would be completely
awkward.
Boring.
Totally.
It would be awkward.
Totally.
Especially when like the adjutant is making the little, the fast walk where they got to do, and of course, like the band, they got to do the pass review. They look really sweet doing that. Yes. It does make it. It actually does. Anytime you've heard any of the Army band, anytime I've heard any of them, any band in the military, they're always, like you said before, it does instill a lot of pride and energy, and it's really amazing. So
this year was unique too. We the band got activated for COVID support for helping out with the COVID support mission. So that was the first time, to my knowledge, that the band has been mobilized to do that kind of thing. And it was great. The soldiers had a lot of fun with it. Something different other than Army band, and we got a lot of great feedback from everyone out there. So again, thanks to everyone who supported that.
Yeah. So you started on the band, playing the trombone. And this in 2007, and then 2012, your skills were deteriorating. You decided to take an HR role, right? You were slipping in the band.
Well,
no, I'm joking. In 2012, you kind of switched gears for the first time as an enlisted guy. You switched to a position in the Human Resources NCO here in Columbus, right?
Yes.
And entered the Agr program.
I did.
So tell some of the listeners about the Agr program. They might not know that. Stands for
Active Guard and Reserve.
Right. There you go.
So Agr program.
You know better than me, Patriot. There you go.
So Active Guard Reserve. So basically, the best way to explain it is we people are traditional soldiers, M-Day, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer. So we also have our full-time Agr personnel, and those personnel are equivalent to regular Army, but they're stateside and belong to the National Guard. So they have the same benefits. So we get paid the same, base pay, basic allowance for housing, based off of your rank and duty zip code, basic allowance for substances, enlisted or officer. So a lot of the same perks there. So it's the same, except that we're bound by state when you're in the National Guard. So you just stay within your state when you get assigned to various positions within the AGR program. There also is a Title 10 AGR program. So that's actually the closest equivalent to being in regular Army. Title 10 AGRs can go worldwide, all over the place. I have friends in Germany, friends in Italy, friends that have gone back and forth between CONUS and OCONUS. So you get a lot of opportunities there in the Title 10 AGR program as well. The same benefits too. So, you do 20 years active federal service, you get the same retirement and benefits that a person in the regular Army would. So it's a very great program. Everyone jokes that we always work hard in the regular Army. We still have to do those. We still have to do those drill weekends. So
the whole weekend. That's so tough. Playing instruments at concerts and stuff. I mean, you're not helping yourself with your story. You're like AT the weekend, we're going to the band, we're doing all kind of stuff. So.
And I'll be honest with you, going back to the band a little bit, that was actually some of my harshest training conditions. My very first drill in the band, we did a halftime show for the Cincinnati Bengals game. And it was November, and preparing for it, it was like 35 degrees and raining the entire day. Wore in PT uniform, just sticking it out.
With a PT belt, did you have to wear the PT belt?
And then, yes, always PT belt. Always, part of the uniform. And then the next day at the game, it wasn't raining, but it was probably colder. And I remember we were playing about a half step flat because of how cold it was. But again, phenomenal time. The crowd loved it. We loved it. It was a great time.
Awesome. So you changed that over. You changed your gears to HR now. You joined the AGR, now you can. Are you in the AGR program until you want to get out of it?
Yes.
Okay. So I didn't know that. I remember I was in the reserves for a little bit. And we had. I thought we had. Does the reserves have a?
Yes. So it's again the acronym is AGR, Active Guardian Reserve. So you do also have AGRs in the U.S. Army Reserve. Okay. So they're different because they're kind of like the regular Army guys. They can get selected for promotion in positions worldwide. They're not bound by state like the National Guard.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and the interesting about this is, so Joe is one of the first Army National Guard guys that we've had on that didn't have a civilian job. So you've been like active duty, right? You
essentially since I graduated college.
Exactly, yeah. You've been on the active duty chain, so you haven't had a side job. That was one of the things. I thought he missed that part about his civilian job, and then I read the AGR thing, and that made sense. So, but 15 years, congratulations on that. It does go quick. So you what made you switch over to the HR field? Like you started off as a human resources NCO, and then you actually decided to reclassify in 2013. What was the driving force behind that?
Sure. So when I graduated college, I got my bachelor's degree in music at Youngstown State, and I was still in the band at the time. So even in the band, a soldier can be, we call it ADOS. It's like active duty for operational support. So even when you're not in the AGR program, you can still have opportunities to serve on active duty. For sometimes there were new orders if the mission requires it, but you can serve on active duty orders temporarily to do a certain job or fulfill a specific mission. So at the time, I had just graduated college, and the readiness NCO, which I filled that job also later in my career in the band, they called me and said, "Hey, we have an opportunity to bring you on orders for the month of September." So I did it, and then one thing led to another. I got in those ADOS orders and actually worked for our information technology department, also at Joint Force headquarters. And I was around a lot of HR people. It's one of the biggest directorates at our state headquarters. And just everyone seemed like they really loved what they were doing. And they, talked it up, learned something new every day. So I just started interviewing, and some people interview, for 10, 15 positions before they get in the HR program. But I was fortunate enough in my career to interview and get into the HR program only after the second interview. And from there, that was 2012 when I officially joined. And then once you join the HR program, you have to fulfill the requirements. So the requirements of my position were to reclassify to the HR MOS 42 Alpha. So I did that a year later, March of 2013, went to Camp Parks, California, had a blast. I actually took leave in conjunction with TDY. So I actually drove out there, 40 days total with driving time, school time, and then driving back time. But best decision of my life.
Did you get lost on the way?
No, I'm a human atlas, as my friends tell me.
I know you were like, when you were talking about earlier about where you went to college and the distances between all the places. I was waiting for you to go worldwide. Like it's in between Paris, France, and Hawaii. I didn't know like you were Yeah, you're like a human GPS there.
Yeah, mainly with the American GPS. I got to get overseas a little more, but that came from growing up. We drove everywhere for vacation, road trips. Mom's family's from Chicago, so we quite familiar with Chicago area, and we always drove and took road trips. And I've just always loved driving.
So you talked about that travel. You love traveling. Favorite place you've traveled so far?
Ooh, man, that's a hard one. Woo. Well, I just went to Hawaii, December of 21. That was pretty awesome.
First time?
First time. Okay. First time, and also the longest flight I've been on, which is weird because, it's a U.S. state, so you don't need your passport. But it was an 8-hour flight from Dallas Fort Worth to Maui. We went to Maui. Okay. That's the longest I've been on a plane. Before that, it was, the direct flight from here to Vegas, which is about 4.5 hours. San Francisco, about 5 hours. So that was very interesting because, again, you're in a state, you don't need your passport, but it does really feel like you're in a different country. And if you look on the map, Hawaii is like halfway between California and Japan. It's kind of crazy.
I love how you triangulate everything halfway between something.
It's halfway.
I love it.
Should have just went to Japan next, but.
And the worst part of I remember going to Hawaii is they don't serve any food. There's long flights. If you were going to like Europe, you'd have all these meals. If you go to Hawaii, for some reason, none of the airlines give you food. So if you ever do that, be the first person to get a sandwich if they have it. Get it in the airport before it's just a travel.
Eat at the airport. I'm glad I had a layover. I went during COVID, December 21. So I think they gave us like some peanuts and a bag of chips.
Yeah, it's awful. Like, there's really no food. I don't know what it is, but someone needs to check into that.
And I hate flying so much. I will fly, obviously. So can't drive overseas. But I remember I was like, how am I going to do this 8-hour flight? And I don't know if my body was nervous because I had never been on a flight that long. I actually sat in that seat for 8 hours. I did not get up to use the bathroom. I just sat there, watched my Netflix, listened to my music until we got to Maui. It was kind of crazy.
I was about to say you're on camera. Do not say like I took a Xanax.
No.
I was about to warn you. I was
no,
like,
I brought some Dramamine for motion sickness.
Don't do it, Joe.
Didn't even need that.
So you get motion sickness in like an airplane?
I do. So I learned this actually my first flight out to California, 2009. Went out there for Thanksgiving. I ended up taking the whole week off school, so that was fine. But part of that was I had to make sure my projects were done. So on the way to California, I'll never forget, I'm in Music History 3, working on a music history paper. And I worked on it for about an hour. I knocked it out. I had worked on it a little bit before, so I didn't spend the whole flight doing it. But I remember working on that paper, and I was just extremely nauseous and sick, just from like looking down and trying to type and work on that paper. And then another time I really discovered it is in the back of a 15-passenger van. Our jazz band at Youngstown State went to Uniontown, Pennsylvania, which is a little bit south of Pittsburgh. And I was in the very back of the van, and that wasn't fun either. So did get a little motion sickness. I did go on a cruise in 2018. Did not need it, surprisingly. I didn't mind the sway of the ship. That didn't bother me. And then flying back from Hawaii, I think my body was used to it going there. So I finally did decide to use the bathroom.
Oh, there you
Plus
go.
all the amazing food I ate that just had to come out at some point. So.
But now we know why you didn't join the Navy because of the motion sickness. So that's good. I gotta make a joke about my dad. I didn't know that anybody else would get more motion sick than my dad. But I've met him. It's you, Joe. I mean, my dad can't even go on like a kayak without getting sick from motion sickness. So it's pretty funny. Sorry, Dad. So you switch over to HR now. You get all the way to the rank of E6, right? You've done a bunch of different assignments in the HR field, AGR. The next big thing in your career is you decide that you've had enough. You weren't going to make it in the band, so you had to switch to HR. You weren't going to make E7, so you decided to become a warrant officer, right?
Yes. Yes.
So you decided you got selected for warrant officer, making another warrant officer joke. He didn't even laugh at all. He's just like, yeah, whatever. But so you decide you get accepted as a HR warrant, right?
Yes.
I guess. What's your guys' 90? It's 420 alpha.
420 alpha. Okay, that's correct.
Look at me. I remember that's great.
Yeah.
Look at that. So like, in other words, you went to like a pre-course. The you talked about it before you went to warrant officer candidate school.
Oh yes.
Went to selections or like what talk about that.
Sure. So every warrant officer, it's a little different for aviation. They kind of let the state aviation office manage that for aviation warrant officers, but for the technical warrant officers, which is everyone else that's not aviation, HR, IT, ordnance, allied trades. There's several of them, but for all the technical warrant officer, you have to go through a predetermination process. So that's submitting a packet. It's a huge packet, probably one of the biggest packets of paperwork I've ever done in my life, consisting of a warrant officer resume, several letters of recommendation, but they also screen you and make sure your experience and military education makes you technically qualified to go ahead to be qualified for that warrant officer MOS. So my journey started clear back in 2015. I was in E5 and I submitted my first packet. They got disapproved because they at least want you to have, again, a minimum level of military education. So they called it BNOC back in the day. It's called an ALC, Advanced Leaders course now. I did not have that. So then I went to another HR course. It's called Human Resources Management Qualification course. It is the course, you might remember it, 42 Bravo, 42 Hotel, AG branch.
I'll just tell you, yeah, but I don't.
But it's a course that company and field grade officers go to when they're transitioning to become AG officers. So I went to that as an E5, actually got distinguished honor graduate at it. And the way the website read is that I could do that course in lieu of my advanced leaders course. So submitted my packet a second time. That was also not the case. So finally, in 2017, which is when I was transferred back to the Army Band to be the readiness NCO, I needed it for promotion to E6 at that point. They had just changed the regulation back to where you go to school first and then you get promoted. So I finally went to the advanced leaders course February to March of 17 down at Fort Knox, Kentucky, got my E6, and then immediately submitted. Even though I went back to the band and kind of out of HR a little bit, you don't lose the HR MOS, you still keep it as long as you meet the qualifications. So I kept up on those qualifications and reclassed, went back to the band, and then submitted my predetermination. And finally, after a third packet, got approved by the AG proponent down at Fort Jackson to be technically qualified as a warrant officer.
So third time's a charm.
Third time's a charm.
There you go. So then, so of the ranks you've held, like you said, you've been warrant now for what, a year and a half, almost 2 years?
Yes, a year and a half.
So that how does that compare to the 13 years that you did before that?
Entirely different. So it's almost like starting over. You know, when you go to warrant officer candidate school, they really break you down on that NCO mentality. It's entirely different, and it's really just a new start, a new chapter, a whole new start to your career. The ideal way, and actually doctrine indicates this, that when you do appoint as a warrant officer, you're supposed to, the goal is to aim for another, you know, if you're aiming for retirement per se, 20 years to retire. So when you appoint as a warrant officer, try to do at least another 20 years as a warrant officer. So it's entirely different. Obviously, all the assignments in my listed time definitely helped to get me to this point to where I'm at, because again, that's part of the predetermination process to make sure you're even qualified to appoint in that warrant officer area.
Yeah.
But it's a fresh new start, and it's been great. It's flying by.
Yeah, you're totally throwing off, because the warrant officer doctrine they teach you is how to chain smoke and drink coffee 24 hours a day, because that's most of the warrants.
I get made fun of for that.
Smoke and
when I drink coffee, I drink decaf. I don't probably get tomatoes thrown at the screen. But
all these other chief warrant officers are going to freak out.
I sleep better with not drinking it. That's really why I did it, and I can't have it. I mean, I will drink an occasional cup.
I
don't need it.
The warrant officers, when I was a battalion maintenance officer, I had a CW4 that was my battalion maintenance tech, Gary Blackburn, and he was like the guy that literally all I ever saw him doing was fix shit, smoking, and drinking coffee. Those are like the three things he was always doing. And so my company commander at the time, one time told me, you need to tell Mr. Blackburn that he needs to start coming to PT in the morning. So I was like, all right, I'll tell him. So I walk up to CW4, who, like, if you guys don't know, like, maybe it's changed, but CW4s were not coming to PT.
No.
Even if they were, don't get me wrong, they were at work, but they were like down there in the shop fixing stuff or doing whatever. And so I tell Gary, I was like, hey, Gary, the boss says you need to come to PT. And he's like, did he tell you that? I was like, yeah, he told me to tell you that you need to start coming to PT. And he said, okay, excellent. So about an hour later, he comes with like his, like a book, this is before everything was Excel and all that kind of stuff, and his little leader book. And he says, here, take a look at this. And I look at it and I'm like, what is this? He's like, flip through that. So I start flipping through it, and it's all these PT test scores. And he says, look at these. He's like, when you tell, Captain Odom that I'll come to PT, when I don't ever max out the PT test, right, I'm not coming. So I was like, I'm just telling you what Captain Odom said. So about 2 days later, I tell Captain Odom, he says something like, did you tell him that? I said, yeah, I told him to come to PT. He's like, you really told him that? I was completely joking. I'm like, yeah, I told him that. Why not? But it was funny. Warrant officers are kept me out of a lot of trouble in the jobs I've had. Kept me out of trouble and got me in trouble. I think it's both the thing. I was always frustrated with warrant officers because you're a young lieutenant or a young captain, and you have these jobs where you have a warrant officer who's your technical person, and you'll be in a meeting of like 100 people, and you'll say something as an officer, and people will look at you like you there's something wrong with you, like you've grown a second head, and you're right. You're just like, I know this because the warrant officer told me to say this, or no, but you've learned it. And then a warrant officer says the same thing, and they're like, it's the greatest plan I've ever heard. This is like, we're doing this, let's go. And I was like, that. So it's like the funniest thing when I was always in there is like always the things, the amount of respect that people have for warrants.
Yes.
It's unbelievable. I've always, like I said before, they've kept me out of a lot of trouble, and I've had a lot of great warrants, and I have to thank them for mostly keeping me out of trouble and getting me in trouble too. I enjoyed it. So back to the HR thing. So if you looked at your pictures, you sent me, what I love is Joe sent me the most pictures of anybody, any guests. I felt like I got to know him in a way that I never knew. So I'm looking at the pictures, but one of the greatest things about your pictures is they were always with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And if you looked at a couple of pictures I posted on there, it was really neat to see that. So were you drawn to the HR thing because you're helping people? I felt like when I saw those pictures and then, looking at what you've done in your career, I just feel like that you threw off that vibe of someone that like really cares for people. Is that one of your drives, or was it what really got you into HR? I feel like it was like your perfect mold of you.
Sure. No, absolutely. That is probably the biggest thing that got me into it is helping others. All the Army values is important, but for me, selfless service is the most important. The Soldier's Creed talks about it. I'm an American soldier. I'm a member of a team. So that's, the first line. It's always about the people. We talk about people first, and there's always, helping someone. It always comes full circle. It usually does. I'm not strong like IT, for example. Oh my goodness. Right. Not strong at IT at all. But we actually have in my office a section that handles all of our IT stuff. So when they have anything HR related, they come to us. We help them out. They come to me. I take care of them, and then goes full circle. So then, if I have any computer issues at all, I'm taken care of. But just those relationships and that networking, and the other thing too is you never really know what a soldier's going through. You're just helping them solve a problem. You don't know the stuff behind the curtain. So just that simple act of service and taking care of their needs could make the world of difference and change their lives. And that's what really got me into HR.
Yeah, and I saw in the pictures it was pretty awesome to look at the pictures, and there's a couple that I put up there, but it was really awesome that 90% of them you were with someone else enjoying the moment. I thought that was great. My favorite one though is you actually were with a paratrooper.
Yeah.
So I thank goodness she's not. I mean, I hope she doesn't know the story about you getting air sickness, but I think she had the British jump wings, so that was pretty awesome to see that. I'm pretty sure now that she knows that you're. You get motion sickness, she probably won't take a picture.
Probably not.
Again. Yeah, it's kind of like you're out. But that was awesome. But that was really cool. The picture you sent and seeing how much you enjoyed being people. It's great. So you've been 15 years you're in. You've been in a long time, right? What's your most proud moment so far in the Army?
Oh, that's a really good one. I've had a few. Obviously, being a warrant officer is a huge accomplishment, especially for me because I actually delayed my appointment. I did not appoint right away when I graduated Warrant Officer Candidate School. So I'm AGR. So when you do anything, a transition like that, become a warrant officer or even become a commissioned officer, to stay in the Agr program becomes that second factor. Are you going to stay AGR? Or are you going to resign and go back to MDay? So when I went through WOCS, there were no AGR warrant officer positions at the time. So I went into it saying, this is what I want to do regardless. It's not just about being an AGR warrant officer. I want to be a HR warrant officer, period. So I really set that as my focus. Went through the school, graduated in 2019. In the National Guard, you can delay your appointment for up to 5 years, both to become a warrant officer or a commissioned officer. They've recently changed the regulations on that. So I actually didn't appoint until 2021. So I went 18 months. We call it a certificate of eligibility, but basically I graduated Warrant Officer Candidate School. And then when it was time to appoint, which is when to stay AGR, I interviewed and was selected for an AGR position. That was the time I was able to take my appointment. So that was a huge moment too, is that I knew I did it for the right reasons, not just chasing rank or anything like that. And it's been a whirlwind. My other proud moment is probably the Army Band when I went back, when I got my E6, the readiness NCO there. So that position is quite a beast. So for most positions, most unit level positions in the Army National Guard, you have your radio NCO that does your HR administrative stuff. You have your training NCO that works in your operations, and then you have your supply sergeant that does all your logistics. That's another area. Logistics is not my friend. Terrible logistics, but I had to do it being at the band. What was unique at the band is it was a small unit, 45 people. So on paper, it looks great. Like, yes, okay, you don't only have this many people, so you can do all 3 jobs. I can tell you there's nothing farther from the truth. What that doesn't account for is the op tempo. So there's only one Army band in Ohio. There's actually 2. There's the 338th. They're one of the Army Reserve bands that you mentioned earlier.
One of the 88. Look at that. Yeah.
And but National Guard wise is one band. So, it's a little different from like, infantry companies. There's a few of those, or whole battalions full of, infantry companies, the military police, but there's one Army band. So it sounds great. You only have 40 people, but when you're supporting all these missions and always on the go, that time compounds, the functions compound to make sure that your team and your soldiers are taken care of and well ready to support the mission. I always told everybody, again, the 3 major areas, HR, operations, and logistics. So really, for one person doing all those, just multiply the number of soldiers in your unit times 3, and that's how many soldiers you have to take care of. So I had about a 40 member unit. So times that by 3 needs, you're talking about 120 soldiers. And that's only, again, that's the top level. That's not even digging into the weeds. There's other levels of HR. There's several levels of training and operations. There's several levels of logistics. So just breaking it at the surface like that, it really helps you put in perspective how busy that readiness NCO is. And me making it through that assignment was paramount because I had gone to WOCS. That's when I started WOCS, was in that assignment. Probably the hardest position you could do while going through Warrant Officer Candidate School. And I just was determined. Warrant Officer was my goal. So I juggled both. It was difficult, but I made it through.
Yeah, a lot going on. It's like that. I think that you see a lot of things with the military is whenever things are stacked, and that's when you see the cream rise to the top when people are stressed out and doing all these things. It's always amazing what you can accomplish when you have to accomplish those things. It's
absolutely
it's pretty amazing. So, Warrant Officer Basic course, you went to Fort Jackson, right?
Yes.
So is that for all branches? So is it just Army National Guard class, or do you have active duty, reserves? Is everyone in the same class, or how do they do that?
Yeah, so you have all branches. Excuse me. So you have all schools are like this, no matter what your Warrant Officer MOS is. It's the same proponent, and the way to kind of relate that back is the proponent is approving all packets for all 3: regular Army, Army Reserves, and Army National Guard. So the same holds true when you go to your Warrant Officer Basic courses, and same with your Warrant Officer Advanced courses. I haven't gone to mine yet. That's a little later in my career, but yeah, you get all 3 components. So my class was a good mix actually. We were half reservists, half active Army. So we had 16 active Army, 11 National Guard, and 5 U.S. Army Reservists.
Okay.
So it's all broken down. You all do the same training. No one's held to a different standard. You're all there to accomplish the same thing. Go through that training. For 420 Alpha, it's 9 weeks, and you're all being held to the same standards, graduation requirements to finish that course.
Yeah, because it's the same thing as the Officer Basic course. Then it's the same thing. I just want to make sure that was the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, 9 weeks to learn, like I said, again, to chain smoke, drink coffee. I don't know how you graduated the decaf thing. That's crazy.
Yeah, that works for Warrant Officer Candidate School.
And black coffee. That's the other thing too. It's like straight up. Yeah. Oh my god.
That works for me in Warrant Officer Candidate School. You could request, caffeine privileges up to a certain point, but they definitely don't give you coffee right off the bat, and you have to earn and request that.
Maybe that's why
I didn't have to worry about that. That was a nice thing about at least Warrant Officer Candidate School. I didn't have to worry about the coffee. Other candidates were struggling. It was hard for them.
So you're pretty new into the whiskey journey. So before we go to the next question, I think it's time to do the second featured whiskey of the night. We're gonna go. What was great about Joe's bio, the short bio they sent us, it just had a lot of great things. The pictures were great, and then he answered the most, or talked about the most, about whiskey of anybody, and it was very specific about what he liked and what he didn't like. So he is actually he's new to whiskey. The journey started, within the past, 3 or 4 years, but he's already on the Blanton hate chain, which is so funny to me. We're getting a lot of round of applause. It was so funny. I think it said, I can't remember, but he's like, Maker's Mark was my least favorite until I tried Blanton's. Yep. It's awful. So which I just thought was great. It was like a whole paragraph about whiskey, which is great. So tonight we're hoping to try something different. I don't know if you've had this, but you did mention that you went down to Louisville and you really liked Old Forester.
Loved it.
So are you ready for another? You're
I'm slowing down. I will be a little bit.
I think we need to get.
I'm just talking so much.
We need the support glass to support crew to get him another support glass. Bring in another glass. We need another glass. Is there an empty one over there? Oh, someone's got to come on. Someone's got to come on camera to get it.
I can go grab it.
We're gonna see. Oh, Nathan's coming in. He loves getting on camera. Normally, he gets on there normally when you guys are off the air. So say hi, Nate.
Thank you.
How's it going? Nice pajamas. Nice.
I think Nate's been waiting for that. So we're gonna go to the next featured whiskey, which is Old Forester Barrel Strength. We're gonna jump it up from your 90 proof, which I was surprised that you said some of the things you didn't like Blanton's is a lower proof thing. So didn't realize that you had such a hatred for Blanton. That's the one thing he said he hated the most in the world was Blanton's. But we're gonna go with some Old Forester.
There we go.
Which is another Brown-Forman product. Is that too much for you?
No, it's good.
You'll figure it out. We'll
good.
Figure it out.
I'm hydrated.
Which is good. So we talked a little bit about Old Forester in the past. It's owned by Brown-Forman, just like Woodford Reserve. It's actually been on the market continuously longer than any other distillery, and it was actually the first bourbon that was in sealed bottles. It was founded in 1870 by George Gavin Brown, who is also the founder of Brown-Forman. We talked about before, and then during Prohibition is one of 6 distilleries that was granted a license to continue to have full production during Prohibition. Old Forester is produced at the Brown-Forman Distillery in Shively, Kentucky, which is the same place that Woodford Reserve is distilled. And it's also distilled. Some of their products are actually distilled at the Old Forester Distilling Company in Louisville, Kentucky on Whiskey Row, which I think is where you visited, right?
Yes.
And as we talked in the past, in 2019, Brown-Forman decided to change their program a little bit to enhance their single barrel program. So they got rid of the 90 proof I think we have here. They went to 100 proof and they introduced these barrel strengths. This barrel strength came to us right during COVID. We picked this. I think it was the first teleconference or Zoom barrel pick they did in the nation during COVID. And it has a really cool name, that Barrel Effin' Baskin. So if you're a big person that during COVID was into Netflix, Tiger King is what we named it off. I still can't believe they actually allowed us to name that. And just so you don't think we're joking, but it's actually on there. It's one of the greatest names of a barrel ever. So hopefully enjoy that. It's going to have a little bit more proof to it, but you said you enjoyed Old Forester, so I thought we'd pull out an Old Forester product for you and another Brown-Forman product. So enjoy.
Yeah, that's good.
Right there. It's better than Blanton's?
You can't get lower than Blanton's.
Well, yeah, it's a joke. So I'm sure there's a lot of whiskey people that are on it and people that aren't whiskey people. So
it's like BTB, better than Blanton's.
But it's very easy. BTB. I don't think I've ever heard that.
Put that in the chat. BTB.
Hashtag BTB. I've actually never heard that. But so Bland's takes a hit. But whiskey wouldn't be where single barrel bourbon would not be where it is today if it wasn't for Bland's. Bland's was the first single barrel bourbon. So it always has a place in my heart. It's not as bad as everybody thinks. I think as I've look at Joe's face. Personally, we talked about this before, like off camera, and I was talking to people. But if you were given, like I said earlier about Woodford Reserve, right? I'm not a Woodford Reserve fan, meaning that I'm not going to go buy that bottle. There's some things that they do when they get to their higher level of stuff that we're not talking about. I just feel like it's not that great. However, if we were to open that bottle and that's all we had to drink tonight, if you like whiskey, you have to like Woodford. I still the same thing about Bland's. Bland's isn't something that's just you can't drink. Is it worth waiting in line for 3 hours?
No.
Is it worth $120?
I've not paid that much for bourbon yet, so probably not.
So what's the most expensive you?
So yeah, good question. Great question. I'm taking another sip before I answer that. This is very good.
Oh, this is good because this is if you're in the bourbon world or new to it or like a vet. This is a simple question. Like $100. A lot of people are thinking, if you're listening, like, oh my gosh, $100. Like I can tell you, honest to God, Jana, I have never spent more than $59.95 on a bottle of bourbon.
So the most was a few weeks ago. I found out at a military exchange, actually. Jefferson's Ocean. I think I had Voyage 28. Says it on the back of the tag. $77.
That's your high.
It's my highest so far. I'm looking forward to spending 100, not on Blanton's, but yeah, just the more I've tried, you get what you pay for, except for Blanton's. So I'm looking forward to spending, breaking 100.
Which
gotta experience it.
You gotta go. Which is interesting because if you talk about how long you've been into whiskey, you talked about a great story. Before we jumped into whiskey, which is good. But how did you get into whiskey? I think that's a story. You should tell that story rather than me.
Whiskey sours.
But you also mentioned your wedding. A friend gave you.
Yes, great friend of mine. Actually, he's a regular Army band. Phenomenal person.
What instrument?
He plays trumpet and vocal. His voice.
Okay, cool.
Great musician. So our wedding, we got married February 2018, and his gift to me, he's from Kentucky, and his gift to me was Russell's Reserve Select, a bottle of that. And I think I'm trying to remember what he told me he paid for it because I did ask later, but it was. I had never had anything like it up until that point.
We're gonna have to give you some Russells after this if you can make it through.
Yeah, I can make it through. I'm hydrated.
We'll have to get you a third, Glenn. So somebody else can come on camera to do it. Now we'll do it off camera. But no, so it is great. Like there's always something. I thought that was a great story, like a wedding gift to get you into it. But back to whiskey. What we were talking about, the $100. I used to think spending $100. I still think spending $100 is absolutely insane. $59.95. Not going any higher than that.
This is cheaper than that. 57 and some change.
No, I know. I'm making a joke. It's $100 is not a crazy number anymore. Not even talking about secondary value. Talking about normal value of whiskeys now. There's whiskeys that are bourbons. Whiskeys that are 5-6 years old that sell for $120, $130. It's crazy. Even higher. But yeah, the 100. If you keep going. You just don't need to tell your husband that you spent over $100. You just kind of keep it separate or whatever. But because I've stayed true, $59.95, not a dime more. I got to keep it under that $60.
Yep.
No, but it's true. It is. But it also, like we talked about before, whiskey. It doesn't have to be $100 to be good.
No, definitely not.
It doesn't have to be, there's a lot of great whiskeys. Like you find what you like. If it's $39.99, drink that. It's great, whatever you like. But it is great to try some stuff.
Definitely.
But in this market right now, everybody's, all the distilleries, especially the craft distilleries, the prices are in my opinion, completely crazy. And that's kind of how I look at stuff. I look at Jefferson Reserve, the same thing. Yeah. You're hating all the things that I don't like. Like I'm not a Jefferson fan either. Yeah.
1792.
I like 1792 Foolproof. We've connected on that one. We connected on Old Forester. We connected on Russell's, but like
Angel's Envy.
No, that's right. No.
That's like his Blanton's, my version of his. Yeah.
No. Again, but I talk about. I'm also like one of the things I was talking. Like, as you're going, anybody goes on their bourbon journey. I call it. It's so crazy when I talk about this. It's like we're something philosophical, but the more you try, the more you really understand what you like and don't like, and that's the important thing about it. Is in this community, there's a lot of pressure to like certain things, and in the beginning, you're like, I have to try this, I have to like this, but it's funny to watch how people's taste changes. You at one time you're like $77 is a lot of money, and then all of a sudden you're like, honey, I had to buy it. You don't understand how rare this bottle is. I had to pay $1,200 for this. This is super rare. This will never come onto the market again. But what about all that other stuff? Honey, don't pay attention to that. You know what I mean? So, but to be full disclosure, I have paid over $59.95 for a bottle. I had to come clean to everybody. I can't lie on camera like that. I try to think of my high. Actually, your highest is 77. I'm trying to think what my highest number is. I didn't pay that much money for them. No, my highest would be the old Fitz decanters from Heaven Hill. So it's a series that they put out. The 16 years I got straight from the distillery there. I can't remember, like 250 or something.
No, okay.
Yes, I think it's like 250, 260 is my highest, which that's not bad, right?
Call me when you do that again. I gotta taste that. That's pretty. No,
those are special.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, no, but yeah, that's my highest. But it's just when you buy $260, $200, $150 all in the same week or same month.
All I gotta do is just
You
cover
share
the
the
bottom
Venmo.
surface.
You
That's
share
all-
the
that's all I'm
Venmo with your
asking for.
wife. It gets uncomfortable for everyone involved. So,
And that's my husband doesn't drink, so there's that too. So he's
my wife doesn't drink bourbon,
all
which is
for
good.
me.
Yeah, which is good. I've always talked about that with
He likes
so-
his Coke Zero and Dr Pepper Zero. So
he didn't drink at all.
not at all.
Okay, not at all. That's
Not at all.
interesting. Yeah,
He did he liked Cool and Bailey's for a minute, but now he very, very, very rarely drinks.
which is good because I see all these families. My wife drinks beer. She loves IPAs, which is I like IPAs too. And it's funny we there's a lot of great breweries here, and we share some breweries. But like my wife, I call her Hoof Horse, so Hoof Hearted.
Oh,
It's a
that's
local
I
place
love
here.
that place.
And
great food.
I love that my wife's into it, but I
Great
hate it
food.
because you bring something home and you think you have this, and you go to the refrigerator and it's gone. But I'm so glad that she's on to whiskey because there's no bigger horror to me to have like a favorite bottle, right? I have like a nightmare about it. Like it would be like your wife's into whiskey. You go grab the bottle. There was like maybe like 5-6 ounces that would last, a month, maybe a night. And you go down there to grab it and it's gone. And I hear those stories, like all these couples that are into it. And I'm just like, man, I wish it was the same thing, but I'm also glad that my wife doesn't like whiskey. So it's all mine for the most part, unless people come and share. And there's what you guys don't see on the back behind the screen. There's a lot of bottles out to sharing. So we talked about, the one year you graduated, you're warrant officer now, a year and a half. We talked about this in the pre-interview. I think it was a good time. We talked about your husband, right?
Yes.
So a topic that I asked you yesterday, if you wanted to talk about, one of the things about this podcast is to talk about whatever makes people comfortable. So obviously you're married to your husband, so gay in the military and openly out.
Yes.
And we talked about that yesterday. For me in the military, when I was in, it was still don't ask, don't tell up until 2011, right? September 20th, I think. So you actually started the question I didn't ask you last night. So you enlisted in 2007.
Correct.
And the policy didn't change for 4 more years.
Correct.
How did you, if you want to talk about it,
Absolutely.
How did you navigate? You said you were open. I didn't ambush him on any of this stuff. We talked about this, everybody. I'm trying to be slick about it, but he agreed to talk about it. So how did you navigate those 4 years?
Sure. So I think the biggest thing that helped me, honestly, was the unit I enlisted in. So the Army band, as you know, musicians are some crazy people who were quirky, were sometimes awkward. So I think that helped too. Might have been a totally different story, and I might not be sitting here today if it was maybe an infantry company or field artillery or even aviation. You just don't know and really can't predict those things. But a lot of my great leaders have told me that as long as you are a good soldier and do your job, it doesn't really matter, and they don't really care. And honestly, I've been very fortunate in my career to have just that experience. I remember basic training. Actually, one of the girls in my platoon, she was also gay, so we connected instantly. And just having those people that you can talk to, but I mean, my voice kind of gives it away. Are you allowed to say that? You're allowed to say that. That's not. I don't know. My voice gives it away. Not that your voice really means that you're one way or the other, but I at one point
that's your trait. I think that's just
I have a very distinctive voice.
Okay.
A lot of people say that about me.
Well, I think it's funny. We talked about yesterday. So being able to connect, so for those 4 years you're in basic training, I was, commissioned officer during the don't ask, don't tell era. And everybody knew that people were gay, but it was like one of these things, like, I don't think anybody cared. And that's why I was glad you want to talk about this, because I felt, there's always this, especially in today, we agreed not to talk about politics on the podcast, and we won't, but in general, I feel like there's this, I've always had an extreme amount of pride from when I got commissioned until I got out, that there were gay people that we all knew about it and were doing their job, and nobody cared. But there's some people that, want to get their hands into it and don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's some places where it wasn't great, right? And it probably still isn't. I understand that, but I just feel like in general, it wasn't this place where people were like, the don't ask, don't tell, the asking. Like, I don't remember anybody like walking up to like PFC Gibson and be like, "Are you gay?" Like, I don't remember.
No, I never had any of that. No.
Yeah, it was like one of those things. But so that 4 years, it's. I don't know. I have pride in that. I don't know. Is that wrong to say? I guess,
No,
or
that's
not?
great. That's a great point you bring up. Because
Not just me, but a lot of leaders that were leaders at the
Definitely.
time. Yeah, I think.
So you mentioned, you didn't ask anybody. It's funny because it was Don't Ask, Don't Tell. But actually, the last year I was in the band before I went to HR and got out of the band, I actually came out officially to a lot of my fellow soldiers, and that was the other kind of very fulfilling thing for me is they're like, yeah, we knew. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't so.
Like no shit, dude.
Not only did they ask,
like people told me to. You're like, really? Oh no.
my boyfriend's like, duh, I could have told you that when you got here. But that was also fulfilling for me because it was, again, they were just like, I knew, and just them saying it that nonchalantly would told me again that they didn't care as long as you were a good soldier. That didn't have anything to do with how you were as a soldier and as a leader.
So after the 4 years, everybody may not know, but September 20th, 2011, they repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell, so you could be open. So it was, I mean, what was that like being a gay man in the Army? Was it any different? Like,
it wasn't really different for the Army. The irony of that is when that happened, September 2011 is also when I graduated college. And I didn't really officially come out to everyone until I was in my last year of college. I was 23 at the time. And I graduated in August of 2011. So the timing of that is kind of interesting because that's when they repealed it. And that was when I was at my point, finally comfortable enough to get out there and tell people who I am. And if they ask me questions, because I had that in my childhood, I was asked several times if I was gay, and I straight denied it. I said no. And I grew up in an environment, there was only 5, I was one of 5 black people in my entire class of 117 people. And you can just tell that right, you can just tell just it wasn't accepted, that it wouldn't be acceptable if you said yes. So I just said no. And then I think the other thing that kind of yes and no helped me out or didn't help me out is the ladies loved me. Like they loved me when I was in middle school. They loved me when I was in high school. I had all kinds of girls like trying to get my number and date me. So that probably helped a little bit, but it was just ironic when that timing happened. And then I went on to a different unit and I didn't change who I was. And again, people usually don't care. And it's about who you are as a person, who you are as a soldier, and just getting people's respect overall.
Yeah, I think that's the thing to me is I mean, I'm glad you answered that question because I was kind of wondering what it would be like. All of a sudden, it was like the greatest day, and for me, I still go back to this. I feel like there's so many great leaders. Yes, obviously there were shitty leaders, just like there's shitty firemen, there's shitty accountants, whatever. But there were shitty people that just weren't doing the right thing at the time. But I can't tell you. It was a don't ask, don't tell. But I can't tell you how many people that would say like you're hanging out and be like, "Hey, I got to tell you something. I'm gay," and the same reaction would be like,
right,
no shit. But it's like, and who cares? It was like, and I felt like there was a time where I'm glad that don't get me wrong, I'm glad that policy's gone. I think it was a policy that isn't the best for everyone, but it is good. It's good to hear that in that time frame before that you continue to thrive up until that, and since then, and then a little more history on that, and then like I think 2013 is when the government decided to provide spousal and family benefits to same-sex partners. So a lot's happened in
definitely
10 years, 9 years, and then obviously the last part of that is the transgender part was okay, then not okay, but back in 2021 it was reestablished. So it's interesting. So one of the questions I read some articles on this just to prep for this, and one of the things that what all of them talk about, and I'm glad you said that. So do you think being an openly gay guy in the Army has hurt your career?
Absolutely not. Again, I wouldn't be here to this day if, like I said earlier, maybe if I started off in a different unit other than the Army band. But I have always been true to who I am, and my amazing leaders and mentors in my life have encouraged me to do the same. Because I'm very generally well liked, but we all get haters. We all get haters out there, and again, it just goes down to the type of person you are and how you perform as a soldier. And that's probably another monumental moment in my career too. Being a minority and a gay minority, just becoming a warrant officer. I made it. Here I am, and it's not always about those things that are objective to a point that they really don't have anything to do with how you perform as a soldier and what you value and what you aspire to be. I definitely don't feel like it's hurt my career. If anything, I feel like it makes me stand out a little bit. Like, oh, that person made it. Like he's gay, he's
Right.
minority. Like I can do it too.
Yeah, like it's like an inspiration to people that are
Definitely.
kind of. So do you think like the question?
And I related it to like I think another thing that helps me a lot too. I have of course a lot of huge male mentors in my life, but I have a ton of female mentors in my life. And I mean, they say it's the man's army. I feel like that to this day it kind of is. So I think I was always supportive of female leadership, making it up, getting in the higher ranks too. And I think relating it to that kind of helped me adjust a little bit as well. It's just I'm just another minority out there. I'm like a female in the army and a man's army, and I just think that really helped me stay true to who I am. And if you like it, great. If you don't, that's your problem, not mine. So
Yeah.
I think that correlation, yeah, there's some differences, but there's a lot of similarities in that, and that has definitely helped me out a long way as well.
Yeah, I think when I see those articles, I'm glad. Again, we talked about it yesterday, and just like the research I do to and it's because I feel like I was part of that too, and I feel like whenever that comes up, you just hear like posts, 2011 was so awful. We were looking for people, and I'm like, nobody was. It was like if you could do your job, nobody gave a fuck. Like nobody cared if whatever you were doing, as long as it wasn't illegal. That
right.
No matter what you did, like nobody cared as long as you were competent in your skill. And I feel like the same thing, not only about sexuality but race. That's one of the fun things in 2022 with what's going on. And I don't want to get deep down in politics and anything like that, but just the way the general world is, today is like I just look and I've seen so many. You said before it's a man's army. It's everyone's army. Like it really is. I mean, I've seen women that have excelled, like men that have excelled.
Absolutely.
Asian, black, gay, straight, like whatever. I feel like that's one of the great things about the military, and I really hope it doesn't change. Is that's where you're not judged on those things. You're judged on your ability to do your job.
Absolutely.
Your ability to lead people, and that's it. And so sometimes my mind gets so wrapped up and angry about the world. Like if you read those articles today, I'm just talking about all these people like being coming out is crazy. It's a career killer, and I'm just like, I'm having a guest on tomorrow who's a warrant officer who's 15 years has been out for how many years?
Officially
of your 15
11
years? Yeah, so 11 of your 15 years.
11.
And this guy seems to be thriving, and I just it's one of those things where, and I'm really glad that you were open to talk about it.
Absolutely.
It's not always easy to talk about, and I'm glad you have a female mentor that's a paratrooper, obviously, so she is going to straighten you out. What is her name in the picture? Because I couldn't see
which I sent you. Oh, so that was she Lacey, my friend Lacey.
She's in the new Army uniforms, which are what are they called now? The
OCP. Operational Camouflage Pattern?
No, it's the tans, the brown.
The pinks and greens?
Pinks and greens, yeah. I'm off. Which I love. The pinks and greens are pretty cool.
So, no, I'm sorry. I know which picture you're thinking. I know which picture you're thinking of now. So, that's my friend, Nikki. So, she was actually, I met her at our Warrant Officer Basic Course graduation. She was our guest speaker. And she was a paratrooper. She's at Fort Bragg. Phenomenal warrant officer. And we just hit it off instantly. We had talked the night before graduation.
She doesn't know about your air sickness. She's gonna disown.
No,
you.
yeah, she's
dropping you off LinkedIn right now.
She's gonna want to experience that and just to see me throw my guts out. And,
British jump wings, I think.
But no, just and her speech was just captivating. It was just more of what I said earlier about being that minority and just she talked a lot in her speech about just no one's perfect and just she didn't go into detail, but just pitfalls and mistakes that she's made, but here she is, Chief Warrant Officer 3, doing amazing things. And just a lot of her speech really connected with me. And so it kind of made sense when I really connected with her. We still talk to this day. I've only met her once. Spent a couple 48 hours with her and just a phenomenal person. We still chat to this day.
Not after tonight.
Cut
them loose. We can't have these. We can't have all these motion sickness people.
I'm getting better. I think
now your new challenge has to go to airborne school. You got to figure out how to go to airborne school. You're still young.
I could do that.
I would pay to see that, actually. Okay. If you do that, I will come to your graduation.
I will let you know.
Because I want to see that. The air sickness, but don't get wrong, like even people, everybody if you've ever done it, I know plenty of people that get air sick, even when you're doing that.
Sure.
It's like, I actually saw something on LinkedIn today, which geared towards, recent bill that was passed, for loan forgiveness, but a guy actually, a paratrooper puking into a puke bag on a C-130, saying, "This is how I earned my my college tuition." And I looked at it, I was like, yeah, it was the old BDUs and camo face and just beads of sweat, and I was just like, "Yep, I've been there." And I've been sitting next to somebody doing. There's nothing worse than that. But we won't say that. That's the best thing in the world. Sitting next to somebody sweating profusely, vomiting in a a bag. It's awesome. Yeah, but it's.
Well, you don't smell it.
No, it's the best thing. I mean, if you've never done that, you ain't shit. No, but that's cool. So I'm glad we talked about it. So now the follow-up question I had that too. So do you think there's still a lot of gay people in the military that are still being quiet out of fear, or not being open out of fear of the promotion stuff? Or career, or do you think that's still a thing, or do you think?
I think it still exists. I think it still exists even on like the minority level, just being not a white person. But in my experience, again, that's another great thing about my career is I've had a great experience with that as far as the gay thing goes. So I have also found, and maybe it's just who I am too, that people have sought me out that have also been very comfortable being gay, also that I've encountered. So it does definitely still exist. There's, stories out there of people not having great experiences at all, but I seem to have drawn out and maybe even inspire people to be more confident that maybe they were that person quiet, didn't want to say anything, and maybe they met me or saw me or encountered me somewhere, and I hope bring that out, bring that inspiration out that you can be true to yourself and still make it in this military.
So what would you say to them? That's what it is. You can be true to yourself. What else would you say to someone that's maybe listening or knows someone that's, they don't want to go open. They're worried about stuff, whether they are not in the band or an infantry company, and Fort Stewart. What would you say to that person if you had a couple minutes or 5 minutes?
Just be true to yourself. That's the biggest thing, really. You don't want to ever. I'm not saying change yourself. You don't want to change yourself for someone else. Now, I don't mean that, we're always all learning and growing, developing, and making mistakes so that we can learn from those and become better leaders. But who you are at your core, and who you know yourself to be and your qualities, exude those, exemplify those. And it does eventually boil down to being objective. If you're not a good person, it doesn't, like you kind of said earlier, it doesn't matter if you're gay or straight. You're not a good person, and people are going to see that out. But if you are that genuine person, if you're that soldier that takes care of people, that strong leader who puts people first, people are going to gravitate towards that no matter who or what you are. And definitely focus on that, and keep striving forward. You're going to have haters, like I said earlier. Everybody has some haters, but it's just being true to yourself, because what you don't want at the end of the day is any regret. And even if people don't receive you well, sometimes that takes time. I had actually a really good friend of mine now in Warrant Officer Candidate School, very religious. So there's that thing too. There's that, I don't know, a tendency out there or stereotype out there that really, really religious people don't support gay people. I can tell you that's not true. I have friends that are extremely religious that are very supportive of me, and I have had no issues with. And so I found out about this person because through our going through WOCS, they came and told me, like, I had this certain perception about gay people, and you have entirely changed that. And again, of just being who I was, I didn't change anything different. I didn't put any bass in my voice. I didn't try to act straight. Like that. What is acting straight? Like you got me on that one. But just being true to myself. So I've had the experience too, and I think what was monumental for that experience is I kind of had an experience like that in high school with the minority thing. I had a really good friend of mine. I knew his dad was racist. It was well known, but I still kept going. I said, okay, that's fine. It's good that I know that, but I'm still you're my friend. I'm still gonna come spend time with you and, play games and play cards. So I just kept going over there, and his dad never talked to me. And eventually his dad finally started talking to me. And it's like, you know what, that Joe's, he's a cool person.
Yeah.
Cause again, it's getting past the surface stuff of being gay or being straight. It's true to who you are as a person, and your ideals and what you believe in and how you treat people. That's a big part of it too. I've always treated everyone will respect as I expect them to treat me back with respect in return. So I've had that experience kind of twice in my life, and just huge monumental moments. Just it carries a lot of weight, and just goes to show again that doesn't matter what you prefer, it just matters who you are as a person and how you treat people.
100%, I agree with that. And another question: could you imagine having 15 years in the military right now where you weren't out and open?
I couldn't.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be here today. I just truly wouldn't.
Yeah.
And then, and there's the other side of that too. That's a great question. For me, being that person who wasn't confident at first and was very kind of quiet and, bullying. I was bullied a little bit in high school and things played into that, but I couldn't imagine being that person now. Like, who would want to be in an environment where you feel alone and on an island and people treating you just because of what you prefer? That I wouldn't, I would do my contract and get the heck out in a heartbeat. Yeah. So definitely, again, I said it and I'll say it again, just be true to yourself and the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and you talk, it's funny. I can imagine, like you talked about that the core person, you could term the term haters. Everybody has haters. It doesn't matter if you're what you are. Everybody has haters. They hate you for whatever reason, whether, and a lot of the times, most of your haters, it's completely unfounded, regardless of what you're doing. Like, people hate you for this, hate you for that. And it definitely shouldn't be, the Army that I loved and I grew up in and that I knew from, my dad's 20 some years in the military and what I saw and what I experienced is that's not the Army I was in, where it was an Army that you're supposed to be who you were, you did your job, and you took care of your yourself and others, and that's where it didn't matter what you were doing, and it's great to see that all the articles I read today. Like anything you read, it wasn't Wikipedia, but it wasn't the greatest article. They were actually predominant articles. That's the first thing in the first paragraph was talking about how often, and there was like a discussion going on, somebody writing a piece about whether you should come out or not come out. And I thought that was crazy. I was like, maybe you should be asking fucking people that are dealing with it. And that's why I'm totally excited that you talked about it.
Absolutely.
I mean, and maybe that's the reason, like anything in life, we talked about, one of the original reasons for this podcast is so it's a place where people can be themselves and talk about things. And I think that's a lot of the problem with veterans, whether it's your sexuality, a lot of other stuff. Like, we don't agree with a lot of shit that the rest of the world agrees with, what I mean? And a lot of the times where, people look at us like we're crazy and that's the reason we did this, is people to be, and it's great, to be able to be able to speak freely and talk about it. And it's really great to see that you're able to be yourself. And I think, like, you said earlier, I'm not a psychologist, but like, you look at, your confidence. I have to imagine that the confidence growing up was you're kind of hiding who you were.
Oh, very much so.
And
very little confidence. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm not promoting like anything to be crazy, but like, if you believe in something, you believe in it, and that's the way it is. And if that's who you are, that's who you are. Like, haters gonna hate, right? Is that right? Is that haters hashtag haters gonna hate?
Take it off. Her lyrics.
But that's great. No, but so we talked about. So you've had some new whiskey now. So what did you think of the higher proof 04?
Delicious. I did. I'm ready for refill.
We'll have to do another one. It's not a featured whiskey, but we're gonna.
What is the feature? I'm gonna next.
We're past the feature.
So
we're past.
Is that one at the end?
Yeah,
anyway.
It's great. It's all right. He's gonna. We might have to.
We
might have to call Jonathan. Jonathan.
I'm hydrated.
That's what you keep saying. Hydrated on what?
I got water bottle.
You have the bottle coming in, like.
I've been drinking water all dang day. I drink like a gallon of water a day.
So we're able to sleep. Like, Joe was the most excited about anybody of the guests. He's talking about he couldn't sleep.
Oh man!
I felt like I should be as excited. I was super.
So that
excited,
was more so Tuesday. I was like super. Like, yesterday was fine. Maybe doing the pre-interview helped release some of that excitement. I did, like, after we got off the phone, I did sit in my back patio for like another hour. So I still went to bed really late, especially given I see the personal trainer at 6:30 in the morning on Thursdays. But no, I was just very excited, and I've watched quite a few episodes here, and just honestly meeting you when I did, just talking about it, that excited me. I was like, this is a thing. Like, yeah, I would definitely want to come on the show as soon as possible. Just a great cause, and I was just extremely excited.
Yeah, it was kind of cool because we met. You know, you and I aren't close friends. This is only the second time we've met in person, so it's exciting for me too to meet people. Like a lot of the people, like you call it the beach ball. Like I know a lot of people that have come on. The most fun about these are the people that I really didn't know a lot about because I don't know. You know, I don't know what to expect.
Sure.
And if most people that know me, I'm a huge control freak. So I like to control everything. And so these are some of my most enjoyable episodes. And I want to keep having people that I don't really know because it just takes me out of my comfort zone. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I want to be like super controlled. It's like I said before, like a lot of the stuff today we're going to talk about. It's like I have a book that I have all this stuff in and I look at the book, but it's funny. Like the people that I don't even know, it's like they have no access to this book, but they just I want to just check off that you guys have this like you took it away from me. I just need to go off camera. You could have just read the questions and
Sure.
been like, was music a big part of your life growing up? Do you still play music? No, but you know, thanks for coming on. It's been awesome. But we have to get you to try the Woodford Reserve Private Barrel. You love the Woodford, so go ahead and open one from Opa there.
Okay. Opa.
You tried that.
Shout out to Opa, man. All their food is amazing. That fried cheese is the bomb. Shout out to Opa. Yeah, I got white no nails. I just got these talons a couple days ago. Maybe.
We got a knife for you. Or we could bust out the tomahawk.
Oh, wait, we're getting somewhere.
We have a tomahawk.
No, we don't need to do all that. I mean,
this is a perfect opportunity to use the
tomahawk.
tomahawk.
Is it still too late to use the tomahawk?
That's perfect, dude. It's just pop it open.
Okay. You gotta do a smell test. It's kind of like wine. You always smell first. Yeah, that's pretty good. I think this is my Woodford glass.
What was the Blanton's thing?
BTB, better than Blanton's.
BTB.
You want some?
BTB.
Like better than Blanton's. I mean, there's just that can mean a lot of things, but my BTB is better than Blanton's because
BTB, I love it.
Can't do it.
So we're just trying a private barrel pick of the same thing we had earlier, the Woodford Reserve. It's
swirl. See, like my wine's kicking in. Like my wine experience.
Your wine's
you don't swirl bourbon, I don't think, but it's
don't
habit.
Don't swirl.
Just habit.
We'll make fun of it. All the guys say, "You got to do the
Y'all
nose."
can laugh at me.
Nice.
Okay.
So
wow! Whoa!
Look at that. Your life just changed.
Whoa! Okay, I see you. Mm-hmm.
It's actually it's pretty yummy.
That's extremely smooth. BTB. Because I'm not going to say anything else about Blanton's.
That is actually it's we talked about like the bourbon journey. Like you try different things. It's like the private barrel stuff is
pretty good.
No matter where you get it from, it's always different. It's always fun. It's always different. So I feel like we have to shout out to the sponsor one more time because you put I feel like I was in the zone now.
Mm-hmm.
Like you should up front, dude. Up front. Everybody wanted to do up front. I don't know why, but I have to do this shot again. It's too much pressure on me. I mean, like I didn't know. You were like a wild card coming in. I didn't know what to expect. And I mean, you're making me drink your wild card. You're making me drink Woodford.
Going on at the beginning.
BTB, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Like now we got to promote Tac Pack. But talk about Tac Pack real quick before we go. If you're tuning in now, we have a special offer from Tac Pack. There's 2 Tac Pack boxes that they have provided to us that we're going to raffle off at a later time. I got to figure out what we're going to do exactly with them. But everybody that's in Pours with Patriots, if you go to Tac Pack, they will give you 25% off your first box. They have 2 box packages, Tac Pack Standard, which is $49.95, and Tac Pack Plus, which is $129.95. You get 25% off your first box if you use the code PWP, Pours with Patriots, not B2B. See? We should have changed it to BTB. If Bob Brayer is listening, we might be able to. I'll try. But no, I'm joking. Change PWP is what's set. Pours with Patriots. 25% off your first box, and then $5. The folks at Tac Pack are going to donate to a charity later at the time, and obviously the charity is going to go to something that has to do with suicide awareness or suicide prevention for veterans. And then also we'll do that. But for tonight, remember we've got 3 CRKT Duhawk Karambit blade knives to give away. All you got to do to qualify for that is in the comments. I've seen some people that put it up there. All you have to do is put hashtag TACPAC or whatever you want to do. Do something fun with TACPAC. TACPAC, like Aflac. Just do whatever you got to do that. We'll open that up for 24 hours. TACPAC. Yeah, look at that. TACPAC. I saw that earlier, like Aflac. That's perfect. Maybe we get Guilford. Bob, you need to get Gilbert Gottfried. Oh, he's passed away. He actually passed away, didn't he? That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. That would have been perfect because he got into a lot of trouble making a comment about the tsunami. Imagine a comedian making, a joke about something, but that actually ruined it. But we can maybe get somebody else to do that. But again, if
hashtag TACPAC,
TACPAC, whatever you put TACPAC in there, we'll keep it open for 24 hours, and then we'll do a randomizer to win one of the 3 knives from TACPAC, and then just pay attention on how to win the TACPAC boxes. But it's great stuff if you're into the tactical thing. And cool stickers. They have the best stickers. Like, Bob, I don't know where you're getting those stickers done, Bob. They're pretty awesome. I think I have one here. If you can see it. There's one of the stickers. Nice. You saw the sticker. That's pretty cool. So thanks to TACPAC. Thanks for letting me steal your flag behind us, Bob. I don't think you're getting it back. I said I was going to bring it back, but I don't think I'm going to bring it back. So I think tonight's episode's coming to a close. I want to thank you, Joe, for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
It's been great.
Thank you. It's been awesome. Thank you for sharing some things that I wasn't sure if you were going to share. Once you send that, I'm actually glad you did. And this is one of the reasons I did this. Everybody has a story, and I'm really glad to be able to learn your story some more from the time I met you the first time. And hopefully we can have you back in here as a guest.
Season 2.
Yeah, season 2. Yeah, I like the season 2. Like, I didn't realize that 2023 will be season 2. I actually like that. I didn't think about it in that way, but season 1, episode 14.
Yes.
It's coming to a close. And before we close it, we're going to get to the dark part of it. So tonight, as always, we're going to honor a veteran who decided to take his own life. And again, like I always say, everybody struggles. Life sucks. But definitely not the option you should choose. If you're feeling like you should talk to someone, before I talk about Angel, you definitely should call the Veterans Crisis Hotline. Dial 988 or 1-800-273-8255 and press 1, or you can text 838-255. So tonight's veteran that we're going to honor is Army Staff Sergeant Angel Garado Green, 24 years old. Angel took his life on September 12th, 2021, while he was assigned to the 4th Battalion, 31st Infantry Regiment, 2nd Brigade Combat Team, 10th Mountain Division. Angel was born in San Bernardino, California on November 6, 1996. He graduated from Eisenhower High School in 2014. He was a standout member of the cross-country, soccer, and track teams. He actually ran, I think, the LA Marathon 3 times before the age of 16, which is pretty goddamn good. So look him up. It's pretty amazing. Wow. Angel joined the Army in May of 2015, and upon completion of basic and AIT, he was assigned to the 10th Mountain Division at Fort Drum, New York, where he was stationed for his entire career. While he was there, he deployed 2 times to Afghanistan. The first time in support of Operation Resolute Support, and then the last time was a support of Operation Freedom Sentinel, which a lot of people know was just a year ago. Angel was happiest lost in the woods in the middle with a can of PPR. If you saw a picture that I posted, it'll be coming up tonight, actually at 9:00 of him. It's a pretty powerful picture because of what people wrote about him. But he was most at home in the woods with a can of PBR in his right hand, and Tyler Childers playing in the background. He was an avid craftsman who enjoyed woodworking projects and building furniture. He's survived by his wife Sandra Green, his mother Susan Barrera, his brother and sister Ray and Elaine Coral, and his father Gerard Green. So again, if you know anybody or you are someone that needs to talk to someone, like I said before, you can always call me or call anybody that call any of the admin team. They're here to listen to you. But most important, if you really need to talk to someone, definitely call the Veterans Crisis Hotline. You can dial 988, which is an awesome new feature, or you can dial 1-800-273-8255 and press 1, or you can text 838-255. So again, I want to thank everyone, and especially thank Joe for coming on.
Appreciate it.
season 1, episode
Looking forward to
14.
season
I gotta
2.
start doing, season 2, coming soon. Hopefully in season 2, we'll put a lot of pressure on my dad, who's here right now. We'll do a poll. So my dad is in the audience, like he is a lot of the times, less than often, but it's all right. But I actually haven't heard from him in like 5 weeks. I wasn't sure if he was still alive or not, but I'm just glad he's alive. I love you, Dad. I'm glad you're alive. I can send you my phone. I can text you my phone number if you forgot it. But we're trying to get my dad on. In all seriousness, know about my dad. I'm giving him a hard time, but we definitely are. We're in the Columbus area. We're still in the in-person interviews. I think they're fun to do. So if you know it, like we're really trying to do, if there's a World War II vet that's in Columbus area that we'd love to try to get him in here. We'll pick him up. We'll do everything we can. We'll do what we can. But if we also need to get some Vietnam veterans in here, since my dad doesn't want to come on here and be a guest. I can't imagine why, but we'll try to get him on soon. But if you have any veterans, and again, not even Vietnam or World War II, but any veteran in the Columbus area, if you're listening or you know somebody that's interested, you can always DM me. I think we're filled for season 1 almost. We got 1 or 2 slots, but season 2 is coming around the corner.
Cutoff?
I think I'm going normal year. I'm not going like a weird fiscal year.
Right,
People are
normal.
but my normal, I'm going December 31st.
Oh, you're doing calendar year.
Yeah, I'm
okay.
doing calendar year. Should I change it?
No, I wasn't sure if it was like the year you started this.
Maybe
from that.
Wow, now you're making me think. Though.
Yeah,
like,
I assume that was like the year from like we're in the first year you started this. I know it's tough.
A lot of thoughts you're putting.
Tough.
Whatever. It's season 1, regardless how we're defining season 1. You're asking
1.
a lot of questions tonight to define season 1. I kind of like the calendar year, but
calendar year, it's just it's the way to go.
It's easier for everybody. Like, if you look at like
it is.
If you're looking at Netflix or some other like series, you always know it's like it's a season. I think I'm going calendar year. So season 1 ends December 31st. But in all seriousness, if you know someone that you think would be great to come on here, and it doesn't have to be, and I'm gonna like before we get off, I get a lot of people that are like, hey, I don't have a great story. Like I wasn't, I didn't deploy to Afghanistan. I didn't go to Vietnam. That's not the point of this podcast. There's a lot of great podcasts that are dealing with the 1% of the 1%, that are dealing with the Marcus Luttrells, that are dealing with Jocko, that we're talking about the 1% of 1%. That is not what we're trying to do here. Every veteran has a story, and it's important. It doesn't matter what you've done in the military. If you want to come on here, honestly, DM me. It's a good time. A lot of great food. Right.
Oh, great food.
Episode 14. The one thing we have not learned yet is we need to make less food. We just continue to make more food.
You do not go hungry here.
Yeah. So I looked at it today and I'm like, we are fucking stupid. Yeah. Like we have to have learned by some point right now that this is too much. But everyone's just like, do this, do that, and it's getting more and more. To put it in perspective, we have a ping pong table that my kids haven't played on in probably I don't know how many years. It's completely full of food and whiskey. So we're gonna close season 1, episode 14. I want to thank you again for coming on, Joe. I want to thank you for your honesty. It's been a pleasure. I'm glad to call you a friend now.
Absolutely.
And the first thing we're doing when we get off here is we're definitely going to have him drink some real Russell's Reserve.
It's on.
So stay tuned. We'll see you in a couple weeks. And please stay tuned to figure out how to win the Tac Pack boxes from Tac Pack. And you guys have a great night. Thank you. What's that? Look at this. I got yelled at for not getting the last quote. Look at me. We had so much fun. I forgot about the last quote. I actually have a quote I didn't put on here that I have to read first. It comes to me like as an AG HR quote before we do that. I'm glad you brought they don't want the episode to end. You see this? They want to keep going. We got to keep going now.
I definitely got to come back.
So one of the ones I didn't put on there, this was an anonymous quote, but it was like, if you get on the branch's radar, they'll send you to Korea. Just lay low and let your commander speak on your behalf. I plan to stay with the troop as long as I can, so I don't need HRC's help. Which is one of the big things, like branch managers, HRAG. I thought that quote, and I was like, yeah, if you piss off the branch manager, your ass is going to Korea.
Yeah, that's not a good
or you volunteer for another assignment, which I did. Like, I want to go for a brag. I'll go to Korea. Don't mind that my wife's 3 months pregnant. No big deal. But the last quote we had, thank you, Josh, for reining me in. talk about structure. Like, you guys are giving me a hard time in control. Like, we let something go, but we got to go for the second quote. So this is actually a good quote. It goes back to the music quote. I thought we'd end on that.
Yeah.
And we started with HR.
Great.
We kind of like said, I flipped it on you. Like, you started with music. See what I'm saying, though?
So the irony also, I'm surprised I didn't bring this up in all this talking about, but I'm AG for life. So there used to be an
BTB AG for life.
BTB AG for life. Hashtag Woodford Reserve. So there used to be an AB Army Bands branch, but very, very, very small. So actually the AG branch also, the Army Band and musicians fall under that as well as a proponent. So for example, 420 Charlie is the MOS for a bandmaster. That's a band warrant officer. Actually, one of my best friends just became the new commander of the 126.
I saw she's a one-off one, right?
She is, yep.
I saw that and I'm like,
yeah.
We
actually
sat, by the way, what's her name?
Emily.
We
sat next to each other.
Joe's coming for you. That's why they didn't let you in the alumni thing, Joe. She's coming for you.
But no, so the Army Band falls into that too. So for her packet went up to the same person my packet went up to get approved to be a bandmaster. So just a fun fact. So it's kind of interesting. We're tying the music into this too.
No, which is cool. So the quote I had, the last one deals with music. So, and it's actually a pretty famous quote from a musician from a long, long time ago, Moliere, French musician. So all the disorders, all the wars which we see in the world only occur because of the neglect to learn music. So I thought it was a pretty potent, cute. Like, I obviously did not learn any music. So that quote rings true for me. So again, Joe, this is the end of episode 14, season 1. Thank you guys. See you in a couple weeks. And thanks again, Joe.
Thank you.